So, why demand forecasting, right? So we're talking about forecasting training. So the first question should be, why is this important? Why is this important for companies? So let's look at the companies and understand why forecasting is important for the different areas within the company. When you look at companies such as Unilever that have a physical product, the main area that's interested, right, in understanding the forecast for sales is supply chain. And supply chain has different issues, but the main one is talking about inventory. Basically, if you under forecast, or basically if you sell more than you planned for, you run the risk of getting stockouts, not being able to sell your product, and that has two tremendous impacts. One is your service level goes down and you start getting problems with your customers, and the second one is you're actually having an opportunity cost because the consumer or the customers will be defaulting to other products from the competition, right? So that's the main one, the big one about under forecasting or overselling. If it's the other way around, if you undersell or if you over forecast, then you have the problem of inventory costs that basically have a financial aspect of it, and the actually maintenance of the inventory, which also has a cost associated with it. You can look at Unilever results to understand globally what is the impact that this has for the results within Unilever. It's a big impact that you can account for during a year, and this is one of the key drivers towards demand forecasting and the necessity of being able to understand what is your future sales. Within supply chain, you also have logistics and distribution, which basically you need to plan to deploy your logistics in a way that you can handle the sales that you're going to have. It's not the same to handle logistics for 100 than handle logistics for 100 million. So that's an interesting aspect, an important aspect for supply chain. And the other one is more mid-term to long-term. It's basically capacity planning. Do I have the capability of supporting my demand, or do I need to have additional capacity set up in-house in my factories or wherever you have it in the supply chain? So supply chain, player number one that's interested in demand forecasting. Player number two is sales. Basically, sales run the company and are the ones that lead the engine that feeds these companies, like Unilever. And sales, you have sales quotas to you, the salesman, but you're not going to be able to give a sales quota if you do not understand what is possible from the demand standing point of view. Basically, if you do not know that you can sell 100 cases and you put a target of 50 cases, then you're not using your incentives correctly, and you're actually going to sell less because of that. And the other hand, if you try to put targets of 1,000 where your demand should be around 100, then you're starting to set impossible targets that will in time worsen your incentives and morale within the sales team, and again you will go down in sales. So finding the optimal quota for your salesman depends on your understanding of future sales. Player number three, you have finance. Basically, finance needs to cover for how much money the company is going to have, but more important in these big companies is understanding margin and making sure that margin is not being sacrificed in the future due to some movements in the demand or generated by Unilever. The fourth area is marketing. Marketing is always there trying to make sure that the portfolio is the most attractive that it can be. And basically for that they need investments, and they need to make sure that those investments have a positive return. And for that they need to understand what is the additional sales that they are bringing with their tactics and investments. So we have four different players, and I'm generalizing a little bit in here, but you have four different players that are interested in forecasting. What is the big problem with this? Historically, each one of these areas is generating a different forecast on their own. And what happens when you have that? Well, just to give you a very simple case, what happens if you have sales aiming to sell 100 cases and you have production preparing to sell 50 cases only, you have an issue. Even if sales meets their target, or basically if sales meets their target, then you're gonna have a supply issue that you were never prepared for, and that's a big problem.